Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Doc Pete, and we're coming to you compliments of Reach to Teach 1 and our P2I Informatics. What is informatics? It's probably not even in your dictionary yet. It certainly doesn't go through spell check. Information that's available automatically, okay? We've actually got our own proprietary software where we file this information, and certainly this video will be a part of AMI, which is Advanced Medical and Miscellaneous Informatic Education. We started off as advanced medical only to keep up on our continuing education, to do some great things for ourselves. But guess what? If we want to open this up being unselfish to give you some information. This particular video will deal with informatics of physical assessment. Now, in the books that we were taught with at St. Louis University School of Medicine, we dealt with actually inspection, percussion, and of course IPPA and auscultation, okay? And of course some of those things were given to us basically because you don't have to just auscultate with the stethoscope. You can auscultate with your ear. You can hear some things in the voice. You can hear some little issues here. This particular video will be dealing only with the inspection aspect of it. We'll deal with some instruments later and some other aspects of percussion and some of the others of auscultation. In any event, we're going to move forward here. The inspection that I want to deal with today deals with what a person just looks like. If you just look at them, if they look sad, if they look dejected, you want to make a little note in your notes that we talk about in terms of these are basically objective findings, basically subjective, I'm sorry, something that you would basically put a judgment on. Basically, you'll subjectively say that this person looks a little disgruntled, meaning they might be angry, they may have an attitude. You want to make sure you make a note of that. If the person looks agitated, for example, as I've said in the other video, you need to basically make a note that this person is agitated and quickly assess them for the possibility of anoxia. This is one of the cardinal signs of being combative and resisting being tied down with constraints is the fact that the patient's not getting their air well. And this is certainly something that happens in some of these police videos. The person is getting agitated, so they're putting more force on it because they can't get any oxygen, they can't breathe. But we're not going to deal with the politics of that right now as much as to tell you it's a part of your inspection. Look at my eyes here. If you look, the conjunctivate will look a certain color. That might be too much information, too much for you to see right now. You might still be scared of blood or the thought of it. But guess what? I can preach this. Don't be scared of blood, okay? It's not going to hurt you. All you have to do is wash your hands or wear gloves when you do this. But if you look here, that should be a certain color. As well as my hands should be a certain color right here, your hands. If you go stop this video now and go get a mirror and look at your conjunctiva, which is that little skin there, it should be a little pink. And that's what we say when it's normal. So you're going to stop this video and move forward. Now we're going to start again here talking about the conjunctiva and these particular what we call the thenar, which is the big part, and the hypothenar eminence. Thenar, hypothenar, as T-H-E-N-A-R. When you look at the hypothenar, it should be pink. And guess what? It's an indication that you have a hemoglobin of at least, guess what? 7. Okay, if it's pink. Now, of course, the normal is about 14 to 16. If it goes over 16, you have a problem also that the heart is going to have to deal with. But we're not going to talk about that right now. It's not readily available through physical assessment. We're talking about our anemic states, which we need to pick up on quickly because certain conditions like menses that happens once a month can cause anemia and should be getting replaced with the normal diet. But also, one of the first signs of colon malignancy or colon problems where there are growths is the fact that the iron is being consumed right there at the malignancy level within the colon. And particularly our right colon malignancies are particularly indicative of anemias and can be assessed by looking at the conjunctiva and of course the hand. So you want to start thinking about these things, and you as a nurse practitioner, you as a custodian or a custodial engineer, also known as janitor, can be the first to assess this on some of your people that you love, that you're taking care of, that you're running into. People who work in the kitchen, who see clients every day. You can assess them, especially if you know that they were one day before surgery, they were looking pretty good, and then after surgery they're not breathing well or whatever. You could be the first to assess it. There's a good book out called Intern by Dr. X, which gives all the credit to his clinical assessment to the nursing staff, especially when he was dealing with heart failure. I suggest you buy that book if you can find it. Written it, I think, published in 1970 something. But anyway, that's a little aside. Again, look here at the hands and the conjunctiva. The next place I'm going to tell you to look is the radius, which is this big bone here, commonly cracked here at the styloid process with falls straight out to the hand, and also at the base of the radius here, okay, where there can be fractures. But assuming there hasn't been any trauma, you don't have to worry about the hand otherwise, but you can assess it by putting your thumb into this, what we call snuff box. If the patient is getting a lot of pain there, it could be a fracture of the styloid process, which gets me to another point. If you get to on the radius, if you get to a child that's been carried by his parent, by his arm, by his hand, like this, and then maybe they made a little quick move, it could be a dislocated radius here called a nursemaid's elbow. You want to get a good x-ray first, because you don't want to be dealing with a Boltzmann contracture and maybe some other traumatic conditions that you miss. Get an x-ray of this radius here as it articulates with the humerus, and of course you want to look at the ulna too. But in this particular case, it's the radius that dislocates. You just put your thumb on that, and guess what? Twist the arm out. The child will have good. You get another x-ray. The client's moving real well. I did that several times up at the MedStop organization in Dallas, Texas, and I wonder how that young lady is now over 35 years ago. She was up and running. I have a picture somewhere. But anyway, that's the radius that I want to show you that you can assess right now, that actually runs back from the hand itself, from the wrist. There are certain bones here, of course. I don't want to get into it, but if they're dislocated, the most common dislocated bone in the wrist is the lunate, which basically you can actually reduce also, but we're not going to deal with that. Be sure to get your x-rays on these. You want to make sure when you're assessing a client after a fall, after a potential fracture, you do a good neurovascular, meaning that they can touch, they can feel things in their fingers. You want to touch all the way to the ulnar nerve and the median nerve, which comes over here. This is in the brachial plexus C4 through C8, basically divisions. You want to check all that. Make sure that you have good, what we call neurovascular integrity, because guess what? Once you start sewing, it's too late. And if you sew through a nerve and the client has more injury than they had from the beginning, that's basically not too good. So you want to basically assess this. This is for really not for our clients who have experience in this, but just as a reminder to those of you who deal with clients a lot and who may be going on, let's say, missionary trips, and you haven't sewed up something in a while. Be sure to put that in your note. In any event, at the base of the hand is the base of the wrist, I should say, is that radius bone. As I mentioned here, you can push it. It's very hard. Come in a little bit. Just notice I'm pushing on the radius. When I say in, I mean medially like this, and basically you feel basically a little pulsation here, which is the last thing we're going to talk about, which you put 2 fingers on, which is the common way to do it, and count for 30 seconds. How many times you get that? Look, you actually need a watch, okay? So you need to take off your watch, and this is what you'll see some good preachers doing and some good doctors. I don't know how it's done now. It's been a while since I've done this assessment, but don't wait on a nurse to tell you what the pulse is. when you're assessing the client, you need to do this on your own, because they may get one reading and you'll get another, and you know somebody's lying. So we got here, and that doesn't happen very often. But you go here and you go with respect to the respiratory rate, though, you do need to do these respiratory rates on your own. If you get a high respiratory rate, looking at the patient, breathe for 30 seconds, multiply it times 2, and you'll get the respiratory rate per what? Minute. If you do it 30 seconds, you want to multiply it times 2. I'll say that again. That will be a first indication of certain conditions, pathologic to say the least, dealing with the possibility of pulmonary embolism. So you want to make sure you get that assessment. But anyway, take off your watch and do that, and look for I usually like to watch for the 15 hand, because you can see it real easy. Start counting. And so you put your finger on here and count for, well, how many seconds? Hello? Wake up. 30 seconds. And then, of course, you multiply that by 2. Now, that will conclude this particular intro to physical assessment. I suggest you get a copy of DeGowan and DeGowan, or I think there's another gentleman or gentle lady that wrote a book called whose name is Barlow, who writes the nursing book. Get both of them. I don't think you can get enough information that you can begin to process this on your own and begin to put in your software, which you can get from us, www.amy.tech, where you can start putting your own encyclopedic pictures, videos, etc. in for your own encyclopedia, so you can also make videos. We'll buy them from you if they're produced right, and you give us some information that we don't have. If you're studying physics, whatever, we want these videos. We want to be chock full of instructions, chock full of pictures, chock full of different what we call entries that can help other people who are just getting introduced to these particular subjects. We thank you. We love you. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Thanks go out to Southside Pharmacy and Carl Dudenstein, JD, and many others who contributed to us, including those on the street who see us playing out there trying to get free lessons and free introductory lessons and advanced lessons in music, etc. We thank you. We love you. There's nothing you can do about it. That'll get it over. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning.